Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are ready for the NBA Finals here. We're looking at Game 1 in this video. Also going to be taking a look at some of these series prices and some of these futures that we do like in this NBA Finals series. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along with us as we are bringing you each and every Finals game that we do have left this season. Also want you to head to thelines.com, have plenty of great written content on there for every angle that you might be looking at with this game, as well as all of the other sports that we are now writing about as well. Just want to make sure you guys know we do have plenty of baseball action up and everything else that you might need on thelines.com. So make sure you head there. And also, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find those listings in your area, such as everything that we have for these NBA Finals. Nate, let's get into Game 1.
Yeah, there's been a day for the dust to settle. The markets are up, and there is plenty to look at as far as series-wide and the opening game, where the Dubs are -3.5. The total is 211.5. Definitely kind of a wait-and-see approach with the total for me, but I'm not taking any overs involving the Celtics right now. Warriors defense also elite at home. I would lean towards the under. But from a series-wide outlook here, I mean, Boston plus 130 to win the series. They're saying, odds makers might really just be trying to generate some juice because the Warriors are the known commodity. Everybody wants to bet, that what they've seen before. It's human nature. And so they're trying to gain some juice on the Celtics, but from a strictly a basketball standpoint, I mean, if this was played in the bubble in an empty gym, I think the Celtics would be heavy favorites, would they not? It's the Warriors having home court advantage. The concerns about the Celtics never been on this stage at all. A lot of young guys. We just don't know how they're going to play under that pressure. And that's why, for me, the series-long outlook is to look at Celtics losing Game 1, learning a little bit about the finals, as they've done in basically each of the last couple series, just having a bit of a letdown after these incredibly hard-fought series. I know the Nets was a sweep, but, I mean, what a lift for them that was. And then they come out Game 1 and just get waxed by the Bucks. Again, come out Game 1 against the Heat with Horford, Smart out, get waxed. And then they start to rebuild from there. And that's been the MO of this team really all year, is to get punched in the gut for 2 straight months before they really start listening to their coach, who has a plan. And damn, the man has a plan against the Warriors. I know the Celtics had been doing well against the Warriors before Udoka came on board. They've won 6 of their last 7 regular season games, different circumstances. And then the last meeting between these teams is what I would look at when I'm thinking under specifically. Because, yes, Steph gets injured in the first or second quarter, but it wouldn't have mattered. He wasn't getting anything going. The Warriors were getting nothing going whatsoever. Just a fantastic defensive game plan from the Celtics, who have, sort of better personnel to deal with this team than they did to deal with either Miami or Milwaukee. Where the Celtics really struggles against those big alpha wings like Butler or Giannis. Marcus Smart is the defensive player of the year for his ability to chase a guy like Curry. And then Wiggins, Clay, I don't know how effective they'll be against those big wings. So I am leaning under, although I do expect the Warriors to pull away at some point in this game and win and cover. But that's my series-long outlook. Like I said, if the Celtics lose Game 1, win the series, that's plus 350 where you can find that. Or you can bet on them to win in 7 at plus 650, win in 6 plus 370. You might say, they can't win a Game 7 at Chase. Well, they just won a Game 7 in Miami. They're 7-2 on the road in these playoffs now. The home court advantage thing, notwithstanding, I think it's more about the pressure of the finals, but 6-0 after a loss, really no difference in their home road splits since they've become this juggernaut in January. So I'm not really thinking they can't handle the atmosphere in Golden State. I just think it'll take some time to get used to the stage. And that's why I like the Warriors in Game 1. I like the Celtics in the series.
Interesting. Yeah. And so you're saying, lose Game 1 for the C's, win the series. That's plus 350 on DK. My thought, though, is like Boston's at plus 130. If they lose game one, what's their series price at now? Probably like 250, maybe even 300. Probably getting a little bit good juice there, a little bit of extra spark if you take the lose game one, win the series is probably better than the play of waiting for the C's to lose game one and then taking them to win the series. Because I don't know, you'll get plus 350 even if they do lose game one, because they're kind of supposed to lose game one, right? Not only are they basically 4-point dogs, they're not the home team in this series. They're without the home court advantage over the course of the series. So I think it makes sense that the plus 350 is worth it if you like that right now. I do like the Warriors to win game one. I definitely do. I am not positive about this series, and part of that is the fluctuation that you see. Some of the somewhat like intangible factors going on with these Celtics. Like you said, there's a lot of this, like, they're still young in a lot of across the board, really, with their best players anyway, outside of Papa Al, and I mean Marcus Smart's been around for a while now, so those two guys are definitely their vets at this point. But between the Tatum, Brown, Robert Williams, even guys like Peyton Pritchard getting time, etc. Grant Williams, there's a lot of youngsters on this squad, so I think they are. It makes sense that there's these emotional letdowns after these relieving, these huge game sevens or ways that they have to close out the series. You mentioned it. Definitely was a relief to beat Brooklyn, come into that Milwaukee series, get handed. I think that's a really good trend to look at here, and I think it continues. And I really think it also speaks to what we could probably expect in game two. This is the difference, though, is Boston has also, to your points that we made about being clutch, they have not been that, right? And they've almost done what they can to give series away. And the offense that they're going to be trying to give this series away to is much better than a Chris Middleton-less Milwaukee Bucks offense, as well as that Miami Heat offense, no matter what, right? So I think they're not going to be able to get away with that. I would be a little bit scared of game two in that sense, but I'm not going to get ahead of myself. I just do feel really good about these dubs at home in game one. I feel good about them coming out. I think this total is pretty fair, to quote our friend Mo. I think this total is pretty fair in that, I see the Dubs at about 107.5. That's about what I would say the team who wins this game is going to score, is about 107 points, to be honest. So, it's really about what both these teams do well. You mentioned that game last March, I believe, the last matchup they had where Steph got hurt on a completely fair play by Marcus Smart. Steph Curry should have dove for the ball. I really hope this is not a conversation we have throughout this series. But at any rate, they both play really hard. I think they both have a lot of respect for each other. They both do the same things really well. They shoot threes really well. They defend threes really well. They defend the perimeter really well. And if Boston has a healthy Robert Williams, they have a huge advantage defending the paint, in my opinion. And obviously Papa Al also adds to that as well. So that's where you give them that advantage down low. But then it's really going to come down to, okay, so what's happening on those wings with the amount of shooters that the Dubs do have? If Wiggins is playing well, then you look at it and go, well, who do you trust? Which do you trust, the Boston defense more, or you trust that that Golden State offense a little bit more? And right now, I mean, the last 6 matchups between these two teams, it's not just that the Celtics have won 5 of those. And granted, 2 seasons ago and the season before, the Dubs were not the team they are this year, or even last year. Obviously, with guys like Draymond, Steph, and Clay all hurt at various times throughout that time period. But over the last couple seasons, even they're getting out rebounded, and that's really why I transitioned to that point. They're just getting outboarded by about 9 boards a game in their last 6 matchups versus them. Both these teams averaging about 23 assists or so a game, which is what you expect. Both these teams very good at dishing out the ball and scoring off of assists. But really, if the Golden State Warriors splits at where they've been sitting with these Warriors, or against these Celtics rather, at 43 from the field, 35% from 3, slightly down from what they need. Because I mean, when you look at what they're doing in these playoffs, when they win, that we've been talking about the discrepancies and the crazy fluctuations in 3-pointers made, and really how if the team that comes out and makes threes in these playoffs seems to be the one that runs away with these double-digit wins. No one is more characteristic, or is true to that characteristic, than the Dubs, who shoot 10 or 12 percentage points better from 3 when they win and make 4.5 more threes when they win versus when they lose in these playoffs. We know they're 9-0 at home because they are shooting so well there, playing the same level of defense really everywhere they are. So I do think they win. I think the points you made that I want to come back to are the Celtics will be able to guard them better than most, if not any team that they played for sure so far in these playoffs, and probably the best team to guard them in the entire league with the way that this Boston defense is built. So I do think that, guys like Jordan Poole, between Poole, Clay, and Steph, you're getting one good game. And that's what they can bank on. Then it's going to come down to is Wiggins hitting shots, and are you getting help from guys like obviously Draymond in a bit. We'll see if Otto Porter's in there, and if Moody's getting some of those minutes as well, which I do expect him to, because he is a corner three guy that they'll need in there. So just ending the points there, I do like the under, but I also like the Dubs, and I wouldn't mind at all an under parlay with that money line for the Dubs and get that about plus 225 or so on your money there at DraftKings.
Yeah, because they probably are going to have to win by hoping the Celtics are cold from the perimeter. I mean, and by hoping that they can respond in kind by denying the Celtics' pet actions. I mean, both these teams are top two in assisted field goal ratio, which is why we're so excited for this finals matchup to actually see some great team basketball. Interesting, the Dubs are almost scoring more points in the paint than from three in these playoffs. It's sort of who they've been facing, though, this overly aggressive Grizzlies team, and then a Mavs team that is more than willing to go small and try to just get into a 3-point shootout, but really to just overguard Steph and force him to create in the paint. But the Celtics, number one in assists allowed, number one in 3-point shooting allowed, and they can go big and still deal with guys on the perimeter. Grant Williams, a guy to look at certainly to get 8 points in this game one. Somebody who's going to play a lot. Robert Williams, the Celtics would love if he was around and able to bounce because then they could overcommit on the three and have that insane rim protection. But he seemed to run out of health in the last two games of that series. Yeah. He was ineffective completely in game 7 and had to get off the floor. But that is all to say, I mean, they still have options, with Al and Grant to play that aggressive scheme. What I'm looking at, not necessarily the Celtics to just come out flat like they did in the last two game ones and lose wire to wire. I actually think you can get some juice on the first half for the Celtics to be ahead because they're aware of that, just like we're looking at it. Like, look, we got to start this series better. They've had much more time to prepare for this. It's not just like game 7 turnaround. Here we go again. And it's this stage. I mean, the way they come out and play defensively when their back is against the wall, just shutting teams down early on. For them to be leading at halftime is plus 135. I just saw that line move considerably. I think that's worth a shot. I mean, it is certainly a toss-up in my mind as to who's going to be leading at that point. But then I would expect the Warriors in the third quarter at some point to pull away. And I would expect an under to hit if they win. And if it's a close game, I would lean Warriors. Absolutely. I mean, they're undefeated at home in these playoffs. They have all the championship acumen, all the experience in these tight games. And the Celtics, frankly, have been awful in tight games. When they win, it's just because they're superior. Game plan and athleticism just leads to a complete blowout. But even when they're up 12 in the fourth quarter, as we just saw, it ain't safe. Like they try to take the air out of the ball. They just hope Tatum can hit some bailout shots and they'll hang on. But I don't think that will really work against a championship level team like that. But circling back to the first half thing, while the Celtics have a letdown in each of these series, the Warriors should be aware of it from their veteran perspective, but they're going to be a little bit shocked by the quality of play here. I mean, let's be real. They've played 3 teams that were shorthanded or just didn't match up very well against them. I mean, starting with the Nuggets, just a bad team. Lost John Morant. I mean, maybe that Memphis series is similar to facing Boston in some ways, a young team with a lot of athleticism, but the Celtics have been through some wars just now. So I don't know. Maybe the experience thing is overrated in terms of saying the Dubs have all this championship metal. I mean, as far as right now, what we just went up against for the Celtics, they know how to play at a high level for 4 quarters a little bit more. They're going to be a little more used to it. That's why I think maybe they can use that to come out strong and try to at least build some momentum, take the crowd out, win the first quarter or the first half of game 1.
And I'm looking at what you're looking at. I'm just feeling differently about it. I'm feeling like what's going to happen in this game, in game one, is the Dubs are going to come out punching them in the mouth. I feel better about a first quarter bet for the Dubs. I really wish there was like a first 5 minutes bet in the NBA, which at times you can get like first to 20 and things like that and ways to kind of do that. But there's no straight up like baseball style first 5 innings kind of spread that I really wish we had, in the way that, first 5-10 minutes of 5 minutes or 6 minutes of the first quarter, because I do think the Dubs are going to come out punching them in the mouth, and I think they're going to be playing pretty well on offense, and that's where I think you're right. But look, what's weird to me is the Dubs have been getting this narrative of like having an easier road to the finals, and it's been easier than the Celtics. Because we talked about how good the top 3 in the East were, and really the Nets were a top 3 team in the East as well. So they basically played all of the best teams in the East, especially with the way Harden and those Sixers looked and when they went out against the Heat. But they also didn't have to play against Chris Middleton, and I mean that really screwed my Milwaukee bet when he went down, because that was a huge obviously he's their second best offensive player straight up, despite how good Jrue Holiday has been. So either way, these teams are in the same boat. I'm just nullifying any sort of surprise that people might expect Golden State to have when they play Boston, versus Boston playing a team that has not been anywhere near the offensive juggernaut that this Golden State Warriors team is right now. Obviously, with Jordan Poole being that third splash pro. So
the gap between Dallas or Memphis or shorthanded Memphis and Boston could be a bit of a shock in terms of them not firing right away.
Could be. I think we both lean under for that exact reason for both these teams. It's almost like they both need to feel each other out a little bit, because even as we're going back through some of these, matchups that they've had as of late, it hasn't been the teams that are about to play on the court right now. Derek White has played in one game, and in that last game where Steph goes out, there's no Wiggins. Draymond's limited to 20 minutes because he's coming back from injury, et cetera, meaning this wasn't the same team. It's not about making excuses for the Dubs. It's just this wasn't the team that was on the floor that's going to be on the floor today, or on Thursday, rather. We're recording this a couple of days before, but Robert Williams as well, the third, is another guy who he's played really big minutes as well in that game in March. There was no answer for him on the boards, which is a huge reason they dominated them by about 12 in that last matchup. So look, I think it is a good time here for a bit of an under. I know we're not doing too much. We have our own player props video that we'll have up for you guys as well. That's going to be just about player props and some of the player futures and things of that nature that you can pick in this series, such as head-to-head and things like that. So there's some fun stuff that we're going to do there. But I did just want to mention in this one that I love Marcus Smart in this matchup as well. He's continued to be somebody who is going to get minutes. He's going to get 36 to 38. There'll be games where I bet you see him playing 40 minutes if Steph is going to be going for that amount of time as well. It's going to be a lot of like when Steph is on the floor, he's in. If Steph comes out, maybe you give Marcus a breather, but he's going to be in there a lot. And he's going to be shooting the ball. He shot about 8.5 threes a game in these playoffs and against the Warriors in their last 5 matchups or so, where he's averaging a ton of points, ton of threes. I think his props are still pretty low for this game, so I would look at him, but he's also just going to be such a huge factor as he has been all playoffs. Really, it's like, is Marcus Smart playing smartly, and is he getting you the shots that you want, or is he still sort of under the impression that he's the best player on this team and trying to get his own? And I think he's been playing so well and so intelligently that he'll continue to be a huge factor and someone that stays on the floor and gets some pretty good stats for you. So look, there is a ton to talk about. We will have plenty more for you guys. That is all the time we have for you in this one. So continue to like and subscribe with us and follow along. We're bringing you every single finals game. Going to continue to bring you these player props videos as well. So until we see you next, happy betting.